I need that money. I really, really do. I need that money. I really need that money. Really need that money. I need that money. I really, really do. I need that money. I really need that money. Really need that money. Really, that money. That money.
Out today is what's going on in the fighting game community right now. Because after years of plenty, after years of overwhelming sweeping success, it seems like there's some chaos going on over there. What would it, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. Like there's a saying about like there's trouble in paradise, I believe, and I feel like that's what's going on. Now you might say, well, what am I talking about? Well, for many years here, the fighting game community has been doing quite good. Really, ever since the launch of Street Fighter 6, tournament attendance has been way up. Engagement for these events, both online and in person, has been increasing exponentially. The viewership on streams, the people making money on these streams is crazy. The level of sponsorship, joining a team, it's all been blowing up, okay? So the fact that we now have some stuff going on that's a little bit to the contrary is confusing. First off, all right, one of the weird things going on right now, this is really odd to me, but then again, maybe not, because I have some comparisons to make, is that right now, there's a tournament circuit going on. If you're not aware, there's the Capcom Pro Tour, which is a series, I think they said it was like 8 events or 4 events. I don't know exactly how many it is. It's 8 events. I'm reading it right now. It's all over the world, and basically 8 events over the course of a year. You play in these events and you place, and that qualifies you for like the finals. And at the end, there's a Pro Tour finale with a big prize pool and all of that. So if you're into competitive Street Fighter, obviously you want to be part of this tour. You want to qualify for the finals, and you want to try to place as high as you can to make a lot of money, right? The weird part about the Capcom Pro Tour is that you would expect that if it was officially sanctioned by Capcom and it was supposed to have such high stakes, if you're entering this tour, you want to place well so you can get to the finals and make a lot of money, right? You would think there would be an air of professionalism, consistency, that, they would basically know what they're doing. But apparently not. Multiple times over the last year at Capcom Pro Tour events, there have been complaints about a lack of consistency of the setups. That you'll go to one event and it's being run on this version. You go to another event and they're being run on a different version, a different kind of monitor. The response time seems different or laggy. Something's going wrong with the setups. Okay? So just to bring some attention to this, I've been reading up on it in the last 24 hours. Currently, right now, there's a tournament going on right now. It's called Blink Respawn 2025. All right? So here's what's going on at Blink Respawn right now. Reports of laggy setups. There have been several, by the way, shout out to Event Hubs, who still to this day is a huge source of news in the fighting game community. They're still very good at what they do. There have been several reports of lagging stations at Blink Respawn 2025, which is one of only 8 premier events in the Capcom Pro Tour this season. The culprit in many players' eyes is the VSync option being enabled for Street Fighter 6 PC setups. So the effort of traveling to and from these events and the best of 3 format means there's a high cost and a small amount of time to adjust to the problems that arise like laggy setups. Best of 3 means it's best 2 out of 3. You only get 3 matches, and you have to win to advance, and if you lose, you're out. So yeah, that's high stakes as opposed to a tournament that maybe is 3 out of 5. So it really is very old school kind of a setup. Now, you may say, VSync. What are you talking about? So for those who don't know what VSync is an option. Ooh, red. Look at that. VSync is an option that's used to sync the refresh rate of the game to whatever monitor or TV you're using. What the VSync option is supposed to do is eliminate screen tearing, right? So imagine right now we're playing Street Fighter 6, but all of a sudden the screen's tearing all over the place. The head's over here and the body's over here as there's motion. It's incredibly jarring. It's incredibly distracting. It's very hard to play when there's screen tearing going on. Now, there's many different ways that can be, you get around this. If you're on PlayStation 5, you can enable the VRR option, and usually that fixes it. If you're on PC, there's other tweaks you can do. Notably, when I was playing Street Fighter 6 on PC, I actually had VSync off. You might say, well, why would someone do that? It's very simple. Input delay. When you have VSync on to stop the screen tearing, it makes the game lag. When you press the button, there's a delay between when you actually input or actually having something happen in the game. That's awful, especially for competitive tournaments. The last thing you want is to have a delay in your inputs. How are you supposed to play? Here's one of the best players in the world and last year's Evo USA winner, Punk to God. I lost to Kusanagi, laughing out loud, so laggy. He whiffed level 2. I couldn't punish it. Really fun tournament. I'm now learning about tournament mode as VSync said on. And if you watch this clip, basically it's this Rashid player, who is this guy, Dual Kevin, okay? He is completely beating this Chun-Li player, Moke, or Moke, I don't know how to say his name, he's Japanese. He's beating his ass. All of a sudden, right in the middle of his corner setups, he's mistiming everything. And then Moke has a mysteriously insane comeback because it seems like Dual Kevin can't time anything properly to stop him or do his setups. So basically what he's saying is, because the VSync is set on, everything's delayed and he can't do his setups properly. Here's Chris G, who I've played before for the record in Street Fighter 6 and other games. One of my matches on PC was stuttering. Sucks. So imagine that. You're playing on PC in a tournament and the game is freezing and unfreezing because the PC is messed up. Okay? And this is Capcom Pro Tour, all right? This is not, hey, rinky-dink tournament event, grassroots event for a few hundred people. This is an event that thousands of people flew to in order to try to win and qualify for the finals and make big money. You know, this is their job. This is what they're doing for a living, and they're playing on setups like this, okay? So you might say, well, wait a minute. Must be a relatively new problem, right? No. Back in the day, it was exactly the same. Let me explain. So back in the day, all right, there was no, you bring your own joystick to the tournament. It was, you go to the tournament and you play on whatever setups they have. Before the era of everything being on console, you had to play on arcade cabinets. So now you're at the mercy of the person who owns that cabinet actually keeping it up to tournament standard. Is the joystick actually working properly? Are the buttons all wired properly? Are the buttons not worn out? Are the click switches working properly? What kind of joystick does that cabinet have? Is it switches or is it laser? Because they actually used to have this thing called an optical stick. And the most hilarious part about it was that people believed it was better when in reality, the optical sticks were actually far worse than those made with clicky switches. So, in a whole era of people trying to play games like Marvel 2 and the fucking joysticks were terrible. It was hilarious. So we kind of put up with the same crap back then. The only difference today is it's not the joystick that's the problem. It's the visuals that's the problem. Back then, it was always the tournament setup, joystick and buttons that was the issue. You would travel across the country, pay a ton of money to enter a tournament, go to play your match, and the button doesn't work. What the fuck? I flew all the way out here to play on a bunk setup that doesn't work. Like, what are you doing? Obviously, that shouldn't be, but that's how it was back then. Today, they're flying across the world to play in Capcom Pro Tour, and there's fucking massive lag in the setup. Why am I even playing? Now, for the record, all right, this is the equivalent of playing online and having massive lag or having your inputs drop. It's exactly the same. So, you know, when I play fighting games online and I'm constantly complaining that this is stupid and not competitive, that's exactly what's happening in Capcom Pro Tour right now at this Blink respawn. And all the pro players are speaking out against it. It's the same exact situation, only they're playing offline and having the same problems as if they were playing online with lag. That's really stupid, right? Okay, so there is supposedly a suggested fix. What people are suggesting, all right, is that they do, here, Capcom can create an offline LAN server. You can play 100% optimal gameplay settings such as VSync off, no lag from splitters, multiple monitors, etc. But the stream can have 100% optimal stream settings as well as the same time, VSync on, etc. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, this could make sense. A LAN server could be controlled by the tournament organizers. But I do have a question, all right? Here's the thing that I have to ask, and an honest question. I don't know if anyone would ever have the answer. Back in the day, all right, it was grassroots, all right? It was people running these tournaments for the love of the community. They wanted these games to still remain popular and prominent, despite the fact that Capcom wasn't even supporting them. I mean that. Back then, there was no Capcom Pro Tour. There was no big stakes. There was no money. There was no big prizes. There was no sponsorships. No one was, sign you to the team. None of that existed. The reason that we played these games competitively back in the day is because we loved them. And so the tournament organizers would be trying to get together. Hey, could you please donate your consoles so we could have enough for the tournament? Could you guys donate your joysticks? Could you donate copies of the game? Because we're not making a lot of money on this event. We want to support the community and keep it going. So if you go to a tournament and there was a problem, you wouldn't always be like, wow, I'm really upset. Instead, you'd express the problem to the organizer and hopefully it would get fixed so that you don't get screwed over out of your match. But you're not going to get so effing furious, right? Today, this is all supervised by Capcom, the makers of the game. You know, Capcom, the multi-million to billion-dollar video game development company. You would think that when there's big money, big prizes on the line, and when the stakes are bigger than ever, and supposedly this is supposed to be professional now, that they would have their shit together. But they don't. These players are going to various different tournaments and seeing different kinds of monitors, different kinds of settings, different things used. There's no consistency. If there's no consistency, how can you learn and perform well at a tournament? The answer is you can't. All right? I'll give you an example here of how I kind of understand the pain. All right? Back in the day, when I used to play in tournaments, one of the biggest things that happened that was a huge shift and a problem was when consoles were becoming more prominent and all the tournaments wanted to shift from the arcade cabinets to the consoles, right? So we all had to adapt because the home console versions of fighting games weren't the equivalent of the arcade. In a lot of cases, everything was different. The speed, the damage output, the dizzy output, the spacing of moves, everything could be completely different. It could be a bum port, but you know, you had to adapt to it. And luckily, the tournaments would at least tell you ahead of time what version they're using. One of the biggest things that happened to me is I went to EVO, and I knew that they were playing the PlayStation 1 version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, so I practiced on it like crazy. I learned the differences from the arcade edition to this edition. I played in the tournament, and I beat all of the greats. Jason Wilson, Bob Painter, Mike Watson. The list grows. I beat like 5, 6, 7 of the legendary Super Turbo players in that tournament because I knew the version and I adapted to it because we were told ahead of time what version you're playing. All right. The problem with what you're seeing right here is that the players don't know what settings this tournament's going to use. So how can they practice? Right? A lot of these players have already been to other Capcom Pro Tour events and they had different settings. How is it fair that they go to Blink Respawn and the settings are different and now there's delay? You can't adjust to that on the fly. It's just not possible. You need to know what you're going to be playing in, right? Imagine if you're a pro baseball player and you go to the World Series, and in the World Series, they decide we're going to use the equipment from softball instead of actual baseball. Well, the bats are different, the balls are different, everything's different. Well, too bad, just adjust. You're a pro player, aren't you? Can't you adjust to that? No, that's stupid. This should be fixed. In fact, quite frankly, the results of this tournament should be fucking scrapped. Because if it's not the same as all the other events, then it should not count. And everyone should be given refunds, and they should be taken to task for running a shitty event. What kills me is that this is very similar, as I've explained, to problems that we used to run into in the FGC over 20 years ago. Yet they still persist in 2025? I mean, this is a fucking clown show circus? Like, what is going on? All this money is at stake, and you still can't figure your shit out over 20 years later. Unbelievable. Okay? Anyway, that's only one of the crazy things going on in the FGC right now. All right? So, a couple days ago, EVO. You know, supposedly the World Fighting Game Championship, the one that everyone goes to, that's supposed to be the most important event of the year for fighting games, released its registration numbers for EVO 2025. For those who don't know, EVO 2025 takes place in 2 weeks. It's actually 2 weeks from this weekend, okay? Well, guess what? EVO 2025 has seen a sharp decrease in attendees for the first time ever. I mean it, like no exaggeration. Every year that EVO has existed, besides, of course, the years it was canceled for COVID and stuff like that, EVO has seen a big increase in attendance. Mostly, I would argue, the last couple of years was because of the emergence of games like Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8. You know, there was also distinct increase in attendance over the years of Street Fighter 5 and other games as well. But since Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 are out, boom, ginormous boost to attendance and engagement and all of that. Okay? So, to give you some perspective here, okay? Here was the attendance record for EVO 2024. This is not 2025. This was last year. okay? Street Fighter 6 had over 5,000 freaking players. Tekken 8, keep in mind, was brand spanking new. This was the first Evo ever for Tekken 8. That had almost 5,000 players, so it was pretty close to Street Fighter. Guilty Gear Strive had around 2K players. Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising, which I guess was the sequel to the one that I had played years ago, had about 1,000. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike had its big exhibition special tournament last year, if you remember, and that one got 1,000 players. And then you have some of the lower games. What I find hilarious here is Mortal Kombat 1. Mortal Kombat 1, which, by the way, outsold all the other games on this list, has almost no players at the biggest fighting game tournament of the year last year. Why? Because it sucks. The game is atrocious. Keep in mind, this was its first Evo as well. Just like Tekken 8, this was its first Evo. It only had 600 players. The game is so effing bad, but the thing is, casuals, non-competitive people always buy Mortal Kombat no matter what. This one sucked ass, okay? So this is last year's attendance. Now, here is this year's attendance for EVO 2025. Oh. Ooh. For the record, these are the most registered games. Okay, this is not, oh, these are just the top 8. No, these are the most registered games at the event. There's side tournaments that only have like 200 to 100 registrants. Okay, so Street Fighter 6, only 4,200. The year before, they had over 5,200. So they lost 1,000. 1/5 of the player base is gone. Tekken 8, last year had nearly 5,000 players. This year only has 2,500. What? They lost 50% of their player base. Yikes. Third place game is Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. Yes, that game that just came out a few months ago. But the weird part about that is comparing the third place game from last year had 2K players. The third place game this year only has 1,500. And we could just look at this right down the board. You know, it was 2K players for Guilty Gear last year. This year it's only 1,500. Grand Blue Fantasy last year had 1,300. Now it's only 900. This year, the exhibition tournament is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Only 570 players as opposed to last year, over 1,000 for Third Strike. Mortal Kombat 1 by far is the most hilarious. 645 entrants in 2024, only 377 entrants. That's like a local. Seriously, that's like a local tournament. 377 entrants for Mortal Kombat 1 at EVO. All right. Last year, EVO broke the esports record. They had over 10,000 registrants for tournaments. This year, they're down to 8,541. So they lost around 15 to 20% of their attendees this year. Okay? So what happened? What's going on right now? Why out of nowhere are we seeing an about-face decline at EVO? Isn't that really confusing? Because I thought that the fighting game community was healthy and everyone says that these modern games are more popular than ever. I mean, they're selling like hotcakes, right? So I'm confused, and it makes me scratch my head. Like, what's going on right now? And I actually wanted to try to get a deep dive into, like, what is the possible root cause of the problem? And there's a few things going on that people are debating. All right, first of all, I want to show you something. This is just an article from just a few months ago back in April. This is an article about EVO Japan 2025, which was held in May. EVO Japan 2025 had record highest attendees, over 8,648. All right, look, they had a distinct increase of around 2,000 players from the year before. And they pulled in 1,500 more people for Street Fighter 6. Again, this is just a few months ago. This was May. All right? So you can argue, well, maybe fighting games just in general are on a decline. Not really. In Japan, they're actually growing. EVO Japan grew and got more players, okay? Now, as you can see, EVO Japan is not nearly on the level as EVO Vegas, because even though they have 6,500 players for Street Fighter 6, take a look at Tekken. Take a look at Guilty Gear Strive. So the rest of the tournaments are way, way, way smaller. Okay? So, in this regard, the question is, if Japan is growing, what happened to EVO Vegas? All right? EVO Vegas is the original EVO, the one that started in the early 2000s. I was at the very first one. okay? And this has always been known as the big tournament. At one point, it was called the Nationals, meaning this was the one that you went to. It's like the Super Bowl. It's like the NBA Finals. It's like the World Series, right? That's what it's supposed to be. The finale, World Cup or whatever. The finale of the fighting game tournament circuit. After this, there's kind of a reset button hit, and we start fresh. But this is supposed to be the whole end of the year. It's the WrestleMania of fighting games. Okay, so does it make sense that all of a sudden Evo Vegas is seeing a sharp decline of attendees? Well, not really. So you have to look at it like, what's going on? Well, a couple interesting pieces of information to talk about. First of all, and you may not be aware of this, in the last 2 years, Evo, well, I take this back, it wasn't the last 2 years, but Evo was sold from the Cannon brothers, who were the people who used to run Shoryuken.com and all of that, and they were the ones who always ran Evo and owned it. They sold it to Sony. So now they don't have involvement in it anymore. Sony owns it and operates it and runs it, okay? What Sony decided to do, they wanted to go global. Instead of Evo just being one time a year in Vegas, they decided to try to do an entire tournament circuit. And so now there's Evo USA, that's usually held in the summertime in Las Vegas, Nevada. There's Evo France, that's about to happen, I believe. I don't know if that's the first one or the second one, but that's coming up in October. There's an Evo Singapore event that is now being worked on and is going to happen. It just doesn't have an actual solid date yet. And of course, as we've already talked about, in the spring, there's Evo Japan. So here's the thing. There used to just be one Evo. Now there's going to be 4. And let's say you're from Europe, or you're from Japan, or maybe you're from another part of Asia. Do you want to spend all of that money flying into the United States, and notably Las Vegas, Nevada, a tourist trap area? Do you want to spend all that time and money getting your passport, your visa, whatever it is you need to fly in to play at this one event, when you very well may have another event that's in your backyard? It's easier for you to go to Evo Japan if you live in Japan than it is to go to Evo USA. By the way, it had almost the same amount of attendees, so it doesn't really matter if you go to USA or Japan. If you place well in Street Fighter 6, you're probably going to do the same when it comes to money payouts or whatever it may be. Also, there's another factor involved. Back in the day, Evo was the place to be if you wanted to be good at fighting games. Why? Because Evo used to be the one time a year where the entire fighting game world would converge on one location. So if you wanted to be exposed to gameplay from people all over the globe, strategies and techniques you've never seen before, see the greats play in person, that was the way to do it. You had to go attend Evo Vegas because it was only one, and that was the one time a year where everyone converged. Well, guess what? Now everything is live streamed. Literally, you can get the same exact level of experience sitting at home watching the stream as if you were there in person. All the big matches are broadcast live. You can see the techniques. You can see the reaction of the players because it's covered in such high-level professionalism. Why do you need to be there? There was one other reason, and I'll tell you what the reason was, okay? The other reason to go to Evo was very simple. You needed practice. And back then, the only way to really get good practice, again, was to attend a tournament where you knew players who were good were going, okay? So to go to Evo Vegas, you're going to play the Japanese. You're going to play people from Canada. You're going to play people from Europe. You're going to play people from everywhere. You're going to get that exposure. There's going to be tons of casual PlayStations set up everywhere so that you can go play against people. There's going to be hotel rooms with people playing on console in there practicing, and you're going to get invited to secret holdings of top players if you're one of them to practice. No exaggeration. This is how it used to be. When I went to tournaments, I didn't just sit around the tournament venue. I was going from hotel room to hotel room, playing anyone I possibly could, absorbing as much knowledge as I possibly could absorb while I was there, because that was my only opportunity to play this variety of players, okay? So what's the difference between back in the day and today? Online play. Today, you can plug into Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8 on PC or on PS5 Pro, and you can play top players from all over the world. Now, it's not guaranteed, but these players regularly organize challenge sets, lobbies where they play each other, to lab stuff against each other. They talk and share strategies. The whole online component has changed the face of competitive gaming. You no longer have to converge on one spot of the planet to play the best players. You can play them all the time. Now, yes, there's factors of lag and latency, but still, you can actually study the meta of the game ahead of time. You can play against the best players online. I mean, hell, I've done it recently. I've been playing top CVS2 players. I played Justin Wong. In Street Fighter 6, I played people like Nephew, right? I played Chris G. I played Noah the Prodigy, who actually is one of the best players in the world now, and I played him in Street Fighter 6. Previously, I never would have had those opportunities. I would have had to go to a tournament, right? So that's what I mean. Things have changed a lot since how they used to be, okay? And in fact, if you actually deep dive, because I don't have a million tweets and things here, but I've been reading up on this topic, some of the people who are actually talking about the EVO attendance dropping are saying some pretty interesting things. For example, someone said, in the last few years, since EVO became corporate owned by Sony, it's just not the same. It just seems like what they want to do is run a money-making convention rather than an actual event for competitive players. That the whole idea is max attendance to make a bank at the gates rather than, hey, here's an event where players can converge and share strategies and meet and, network. It's not about that anymore. They want to make it this big media event where you want to go to be a part of it, but all you're really doing is buying a ticket to pay Sony and line their pockets. It's not about meeting players, learning strategies, getting better at the games. And that's what it always used to be. When it was grassroots, that's what these events were. So basically, the Cannon sold out, EVO goes corporate, EVO's quality declines, sharp decrease in players. Now, of course, there's other factors as well. Inflation is crazy right now, all right? And personally, I can totally understand because my wife and I in the last year, since things picked up better, all right, and we've been looking at, hey, maybe eventually we will go on a trip. Maybe we'll do something. We started looking at prices and things. They are absolutely ridiculous. I'm not kidding you. Plane tickets actually have increased exponentially in price recently. I don't know why. And are you aware? Just listen to this. When you go to fly now, when you buy a ticket, you basically get assigned a random seat. You don't get to pick a seat. If you want to pick a seat, guess what you got to do? Pay more money. Oh, I have a bag that I want to check. That costs money. It's not free anymore. I'm serious. Every little thing is a little nickel and dime transaction involved with travel. Hotels. Oh boy. You look up a hotel and it's like they quote you an amount and this is what it's supposed to be. Oh, but they don't tell you about the hidden fees, the hidden taxes. It's insane. Every little thing is now meant to rob you. It's different than how it used to be, where you used to be able to go to EVO, okay, with a shoestring budget. You would budget together with your friends and you would share a hotel room and you would go on the midnight red-eye flight that was really cheap and you would basically eat shitty food the whole time you were there and you could probably get away with a trip to EVO for under $1,000. Today, to go to Vegas for just a few days at a minimum would cost you probably between $2,000 to $3,000 between the airfare, the hotel, food, the tournament registration and fees and all that. You're spending thousands of dollars, okay? So things have changed. It's no longer where it used to be, hey, this is a grassroots thing and a kid who's an aspiring fighting game player can afford to go to EVO. Now it's more like a luxury event. It's either if this is your job, you can do it because this is what you're waiting for all year. This is your World Series, your main event, your World Cup. Or if you're a tourist who this is just a fun convention you're attending, you don't care about actually participating. You're spending a lot of money to attend EVO, the event, and you treat it like that. And hey, while you're in Vegas, have a Vegas vacation. That makes sense. But in regards to the common player going to EVO and actually using EVO as an opportunity to learn, to get better, to absorb knowledge, to see the best play so you can up your own game, those days seem to be gone. It seems like that's not the point. You can learn just as much sitting at home and watching it on the stream, so why would you possibly go to EVO? And again, I think one of the major factors here is if you have 4 events and you live in Europe or you live in Japan or another part of Asia, why are you going to spend all that money to fly into the US for EVO USA? Notice it doesn't say EVO World anymore because that's what it used to be called. This used to be called EVO World. And then there was now it's just EVO USA. It's just another EVO. So what's happened is by Sony trying to spread out and have more events, they've lost the focus of having one big world tournament every year. It's gone. Did they foresee this? Did they think this would happen? Or, it's kind of weird. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they think because they have 4 events, it doesn't matter if they lose a little bit of attendance here because, hey, Japan's attendance was up and probably France will do really well. So who cares if USA loses some attendance, right? But what's going to happen now is you're going to lose focus on one event being important. And what ends up happening is when you don't actually have a world finals, then you don't really have an end of the year. In which case, you don't have a finale, a climax. You don't have one event where everything culminates. It just goes ongoing endlessly. And then what happens is everything loses meaning. Okay? I mean it. For example, you need to have a big finale and a champion crowned. You have to. If you don't, then every tournament is meaningless because you could just say, well, there's the next one next week anyway. But it used to be Evo World is the big one. That's the one you want to win. When Punk the God won Evo last year, that was his big defining moment. Because for years, he'd been grinding and trying so hard to win the big one, and he always got close and couldn't do it. And then when he finally did it, boom, that was it. Amazing, right? But now, it's not even the biggest tournament anymore. So even if you win Evo USA in 2 weeks, people could just be like, fuck it, France is in a couple months, that's more important. You see? So I think Sony, in pursuit of money, has actually screwed themselves over and shot themselves in the foot. Because what's going to end up happening is when you have too much going on, the excitement and the hype dies out. They're going to have way more people sitting at home watching on stream than trying to attend their events because people don't care about dropping $3,000 to sit around, do a couple things at Artist's Alley or buy some pieces of merch, sit and watch someone play on a stage. Why are you going to spend $3,000 for that? Right? When you can just watch it at home live, it's exactly the same experience, except you don't have the crowd screaming around you and you're not sitting in Las Vegas in a tourist trap, right? Also, I'll be honest, back in the day when Evo was held in Las Vegas, that was part of the appeal of Evo because when you were going and you were spending the $3,000 to go, well, back then it was probably around $1,000, okay? You also got to do other shit. Oh, I'm in Vegas. So while I'm in Vegas, I can walk the strip. Maybe I'll gamble a little bit. Maybe I'll see a show. Maybe I'll eat one of these famous restaurants or buffets. You're having a vacation while you're also playing in the biggest fighting game tournament in the world. But now, because prices have skyrocketed for everything now, how could you afford that? You're already in Vegas spending an insane amount of money to enter Evo and everything. And the prices of the hotels are up. The prices of everything is up. So now, a lot of people probably can't even do that vacation that they used to want to do. It's just too expensive. If Evo would leave that location of Vegas and go somewhere else where basically Evo is the only event going on instead of, oh, you're one of 5,000 things going on in town, which is why everything's so expensive, then maybe the prices would drop. The hotels would be cheaper. The food would be cheaper. Hey, what used to happen back in the day is when one of these big events happened, whether it was Texas Showdown or the East Coast Championships or whatever it may be, the local towns where they were held were very happy because you were going to have hundreds to thousands of extra people in your town who were all going to be now using those local businesses, whether it's gas stations, whether it's hotels, whether it's just local restaurants, whatever it is. Everything's going to see a big increase in money for that weekend because you have 1,000, 2,000 extra people in your local event. Vegas doesn't give two shits. Las Vegas already has a zillion people there every single day for other tourist stuff. It doesn't benefit them to have this event. But another small town could. And probably it would benefit the players because it would just be way less expensive to get around and not have to worry about flying into the Vegas airport and pay double, triple dollar for resort rates. Because that's the other thing. Anywhere you stay in Las Vegas is a resort. Because Las Vegas is a tourist town. Every single hotel is charging you hundreds of extra dollars just to stay there for one night for no reason. You're not getting anything better than anywhere else, but it's a resort town, so here's an extra charge. The hell? The buffets in Vegas are good, but are they worth $50, $60? No, they're worth $20. But they charge you $50, $60 because you're in Vegas. So they could definitely benefit, perhaps by moving somewhere else, but they just traditionally have had it in Vegas since they started in the early 2000s. I don't know if they're really going to change. I mean, Las Vegas, I think it was like 3-4 years ago or 5 years ago. It was pre-COVID, I think. Like the mayor of Vegas gave one of the Cannon brothers the key to the city. Oh, yeah. Sorry if I'm a little biased against those two jokers, but yeah, the key to the fucking city. Anyway, so there's a million factors at play here. All right, there really are. But the weird thing about this whole situation is that I think this is the first time since Street Fighter 4 where the fighting game community is starting to feel some crunch and negativity towards them because they've been in the land of milk and honey for 15 years. Ever since Street Fighter 4 came out and immediately, like, exponentially blew up fighting games again, it's been like every game is on Easy Street. When it comes out, it's going to have an installed player base. People are going to play it. People are going to stream it. People are going to go to tournaments for it. Every year, attendance is up. You know, COVID screwed things up for a lot of people. And I get that. You know, 2 years, they were really rough and there's not much you can do about it. But they bounced back. Now, out of nowhere, supposedly, here we are. The supposed Evo World biggest tournament in the world isn't even the biggest tournament in the world anymore. They've lost 1/5 to 1/2 of their player base. And what's going to happen is, undoubtedly, no matter what happens at Evo, people are going to be like, Evo France is right around the corner. The next Capcom Pro Tour qualifier is right around the corner. So who cares about Evo? I should say Evo USA, right? And that's sad because that's the one that started it all. That's the one that you used to aspire to go to. If you were someone into competitive fighting games, the big event for you always wanted to go to was Evo. You would work your ass off all year at your real job. You would save money up. You would try to get time off of work. You would plan it and plot it out with your friends to carpool and try to get flights at the same time and maybe share the same car when you rent one and all of that. That was the big thing. Evo Vegas was the big event for anyone who was into fighting games once a year. And now it's not anymore. And that's sad. And the thing is, things change. I get it. Over time, things change. But sadly, sometimes you have to look at the root cause. And for as happy as I am that fighting games have grown and that the community is big and that now they're prominent and accepted as part of esports. You know, I came from a time fighting games were the redheaded stepchild of esports. Esports was like a term you didn't even want to use. When Halo was prominent and all that shit, oh, fuck that, we're not part of esports. Now, Street Fighter and fighting games in general are very happy to be an accepted part of the esports leagues and things like that, right? But it all comes at a price. Really, you lose your identity when you go corporate and you go big. The games have been completely dumbed down and play like pattern play nonsense. You don't get consistency at tournaments for setups because no one even knows what the hell they're doing. You get events where it used to be this feeling of community and everyone coming together and spending time with each other. And now it's just been about, geez, it's like, I got to spend $5,000 to go to Evo. Like, that's put me in the hole, you know? It's different. When things grow and go corporate, they lose their individual identity. And that's the sad fact about what's happened here with Evo and with Street Fighter in general, is that people back in the day who used to play it did it for the love of it. We did it because we loved the games. We knew when we went to Evo, even if we freaking placed in the top 3, you weren't making money. I got 4th place at Evo and Super Turbo. I made nothing. I didn't care. I was there because I wanted to learn and show that I was good at fighting games. That's all I cared about. Today, the entire thing is a financial investment. It's a freaking part of your job. It's like, what? Whatever happened to, hey, playing good games and liking them and want to just have a great time with the competition? Seems like those days are gone. Just like what's happened with all competitive sports and stuff like that. It becomes more about how do you print money rather than how do you make it actually meaningful. For anyone who's going to Evo in 2 weeks, I wish you good luck. I don't know if any of my viewers will be or not. I know that because I don't cover fighting games heavily anymore, that most of my audience doesn't really care about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that I wanted to cover because it's actually meaningful to me. It's something I grew up with, and talking about it makes me feel like at least maybe I can add to your understanding of what's going on and, you know, my take coming from a different era. But I don't even know if anyone in my audience gives a shit because, quite frankly, it's so different. You know, at one point, this would have been something that I would have been going to Evo. And now it's been a long time removed. I just don't give a shit anymore. You know, it's just sad. You know, the modern fighting games don't even hold my interest anymore. Like to be honest, I told you guys I'm gonna play Sagat in Street Fighter 6 when he comes out on August 5th, right? Do you want to know the truth? Since I've been playing Capcom vs. SNK 2, I got the competitive bug back for good fighting games. Like, to be honest, I think I just want to keep playing CVS 2. I want to play it once or twice a week. I want to keep climbing in the ranks, playing better players and beating their asses, and or losing to great players like Justin Wong, so that way I can improve my own game. I'm having way more fun and feeling like it's more meaningful to play that than to go back to shitty-ass Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 is just a waste of fucking time because I don't like the game. I did the first year, and since then it's just been a downward hill of every time I play it, I like it less and less. It's just more mindless idiots pushing buttons and lag and doing the same patterns. It's just not fun to play. I haven't played the game in months. If I try to get back into it, I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Or if I'm even going to give a shit, because every time I'm playing Street Fighter 6, I'm going to be wishing that I was playing either CVS 2 or Marvel 2. So, I don't know. I don't know what to do about it, right? Yes, but Big Mac, that's the point I'm making. He said, but we want to see it. But it doesn't matter because what you want to see is me get back into it and care about it and do well at it. And I don't know if I can even do that anymore. I haven't played the game now for how many months since my Shiranui came out? Do you know how long ago that was? Do you know, skipping all of that gameplay, how much far ahead? Everyone's going to have a new meta, new pattern play shit that they've learned that I'm not going to know what the fuck it is. It just playing that catch up alone is enough. And now I have to try to learn Sagat at the same time. I feel like, you know, for a while there, for about 2 years, I was up on the game and I was playing it consistently and everything. But I don't think so. I think at this point, it's kind of a futile effort. I think it makes more sense for me to focus on the stuff that I like rather than, and the stuff that I do well at, by the way, and I understand, rather than the stuff that I hate and I know I don't like, right? So, there you go. Don't play Sagat and uninstall the game. I could do that too. Uninstalling the game doesn't really do anything. But, yeah, I could do that too. Here's the truth. I just don't see enough people really coming back and caring about me getting back into Street Fighter 6. Who will care? The morons who like to see me rage and lose. Because I am going to rage and lose because the game, I don't like it. I haven't played it, so I'm going to be so behind on it. I'm not going to be able to keep hanging with people. I mean, to get Sagat to master might literally be a nightmare. Because even if he's a good character, I don't know what anyone's doing now with these new changes. I didn't give a shit. I didn't follow it. So good luck trying to fucking get caught up with that shit, right? So I don't know. I'm debating whether or not I should even play it again. You know, I'm thinking about it. Sagat looks interesting to me, but I don't know if I'm going to have any fun with it. Is it worth dropping to buy the season when I play it once? I'm like, fuck this game, and I never play it again, and I just go right back to CVS 2. Plus, let's be honest, people are liking CVS 2 a lot. I mean, take a look. The attendance is good. The support is good on these streams. It's going well. So, I don't know. We got to think about it, okay? All right. Anyway, so that was my giant segment on the FGC today. I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are. And by the way, if people have feedback about what's actually going on with Evo, I would love to hear it because I'm trying to analyze it from kind of a neutral perspective. Like, I don't benefit if Evo does well. I don't benefit if Evo fails. I'm just looking at it as an outsider who used to be a part of this community and trying to analyze it. Like, what is actually happening with this event that every year it was growing. Last year, they had a ginormous, huge achievement getting over 10,000 players, and now they've lost 15 to 20% of that player base in 1 year. What the heck's going on, right? Okay, let's do some shout-outs because apparently I have a bunch to do.